Hi everyone, how are we doing? Yeah, that's good. So first, I want to take the opportunity just to thank Phoebe and the whole Creative Mornings team for letting me speak here. It's a big honor. Yeah, clap them in. Yes, yeah, let's go. Bit of crowd participation. I love that. It's a huge honor to be standing here, and I really am blessed to get this opportunity. So I hope that I can speak a little bit into our theme for today, Lost. I had a pretty hard time coming up with a premise for this talk when I found it out about 6 months ago. I mean, it's pretty depressing, Lost. But over the past 6 months, I have experienced a season that I feel every creative either has or will go through in their career, that being losing your passion. It's about to get deep. Are you ready? There's a silver lining there, though. So this morning, I'm going to have a bit of a self-reflection on how I lost some of my passion and the steps I put in place to get it back. A bit about me. My parents bought me a DSLR for my birthday about 8 years ago, and with the help of a few mates, I learned what every button and dial did. I was taking photos all the time, and it wasn't long before I started getting asked to do some photo work. I did a few engagement parties, 18th, 21st, and realized I just didn't love the whole photo side of things, but it wasn't long after that I started gaining interest in the whole video world. I devote whole weekends to film projects with friends. I created some cool event promos and adventure films and, the usual stuff. I learned how to use glide cams and sliders and gimbals and drones and monopods. The world of video seemed to be much more expansive than photo ever did, and I love that. There was so much room for growth, and it felt, especially early on, that if you know what you're doing and you do it well, that there was a lot of opportunity for success. It seemed to me that video was on the precipice of popularity more so than photography. It was during this early stage that I began to see this passion appear. And I've had a few passions in my life, guitar and drawing to name a few, getting a lot of blank stares. So I fondly remember that feeling of unknown, like what can this turn into? How good at this can I be? Where is the limit to my ability? I think my personality thrives in this environment. I'm rigorous in my research on a topic that I don't 100% feel comfortable in until I 100% understand it. So teaching myself film was an exciting process. It was like learning a new language, but I couldn't stop studying and figuring it out more and more. So I started my wedding film business with no idea of how to run a business, how to create a website, or even how to make a wedding film for that matter. I threw myself in the deep end and I figured it out along the way. If you're into horror stories, my first wedding film, I didn't realize that I might need the reception speeches, so I just didn't film them, and I left before the dancing even happened. Call them growing pains or silly decisions, but Castle & Crown has now produced more than 450 films for over 150 clients, and yes, that is a lot of weddings that I've been to. We've existed for almost 5 years now, and every year has provided its own set of challenges. When you first start out in any new creative pursuit, every little stepping stone is really exciting. I remember creating some pretty sick star wipes and whip pan transitions. Any video people in the room know what I'm talking about? Which now in retrospect look pretty awful, I'm sure. But I think every creative honing their craft experiences this stage of learning. You see something you think is so cool and you don't understand, and then you figure out how to do it yourself. And the end product of this process is developing a deep passion for your craft that spurs you along until you're an expert in it. The last 4 years, I've watched my wedding film business grow to support my family and provide us with a lifestyle that I couldn't have imagined just a few years back. I'm proud to work in the wedding industry, which really supports competition and wants to see the tides rise higher and higher for everyone. I look back on our work recently, and I no longer get that sense of I would do it differently if I shot that now, or that edit already looks dated, which I had for a long time. So I can quantifiably say that I'm happy. And yet the last 6 months, I felt like I'm losing the very passion that started everything. And don't get me wrong, the passion isn't all gone. There's days and projects that get me really excited to complete and share. What I'm talking about here is that minute sense of change in my psyche, the thoughts I have about my work and the way that they actualize in my day-to-day. When I started filming weddings, I was amazed that couples would invite me to be part of their biggest day and allow me to see into their relationship. They'd be vulnerable in front of me, show me their true selves, and I still consider it a privilege to capture those emotions. But the last 12 months, I noticed a change in how I felt about the small inconveniences of a wedding day. Like, weddings are renowned for never being on time, and there was more times than I can count that we would leave the end of a day an hour or two after our original run sheets plan. Staying back used to make me feel proud that we were offering a next level service where nothing mattered apart from capturing the couple's wedding day the best way we could. I'd leave with a big smile on my face, confident in the job we did. But fast forward a few years and I still have that sense of confidence, only it's met with a slight taste of inconvenience. It was becoming an inconvenience to stay back later than our original run sheet. I no longer got that sense that we were adding value just by being there longer. My whole attitude towards ensuring the couple's day was only made better by my being there was also starting to change. You see, the monotony of my day-to-day, wake up, I edit, I go to sleep, it really started getting to me. And the byproduct of feeling is that my passion started to dwindle. I was producing the same product over and over again, no longer innovating and improving, and instead delivering consistent results again and again. I don't think everyone finds this stage challenging. In fact, I'm sure there's a lot of people that find relief in getting to a stage of their work where it isn't challenging and you can feel confident in what you deliver always. But I don't think those people are in this room. I believe it's the blessing and the curse of a creative to find joy and fulfillment in the challenges. It's good. Overcoming those challenges is the most rewarding part of this creative life. And I feel once you've hit the stage where everything starts to make sense, you also start losing the very energy that got you there in the first place. It's frustrating just thinking about it. But with a show of hands, who's been through something like this? Who's experienced? Okay, great. Yeah, that's what I was hoping for. Losing my passion for film wasn't something that I saw coming, but over time I realized that I just didn't feel the way I used to about it. What do you do though? How do you fall back in love with your craft? Over the past few months, I've realized a couple of things about longevity in a creative pursuit, which I'd love to share for you. Number one, I think creativity and passion starts and ends with challenges. Without feeling challenged, we stop innovating and creating solutions. And maybe it's just me, but I feel bored. So the past couple of months, I've started thinking of some projects that I don't know how to do. I've taken on some corporate jobs where the challenges are different to weddings, and I've started noticing already how my mood has begun to shift. We were contacted by an activewear manufacturer based in China and LA this year to create a set of promotional films, which we of course jumped at. This job sent us halfway around the world and brought with it a brand new set of challenges. I had to figure out the best way to light an interview and set up microphones and how many cameras would we need, and then how to fit all of that gear into one piece of luggage. Those are all new challenges. This job also required a lot more planning and preparation than a usual wedding shoot. I had to figure out precisely what they saw before I got there. And these new challenges are exciting to me. They stretch my ability, force me to think more creatively. But what can you line up that makes you feel nervous and forces you to innovate and figure out? Not only will taking on these new jobs challenge you, but they'll also broaden your creative language in your primary role, mine being wedding filmmaking. I shot my first real estate job about 9 months ago, and I noticed how I was automatically shooting the wedding venues I visited differently. Instead of capturing footage to tell the story, I was now focusing also on how to best capture the venue that I was visiting. I'd film the interiors and exteriors of the building as if the property was for sale. Maybe the video alone could sell their property. I think we can all agree that challenging yourself leads to growth. But I want to go a step further and suggest that your passion for your work also grows the more you challenge yourself. Secondly, I also believe you have to mix it up. Monotony is the killer of creativity. If you find yourself doing the same repetitive tasks again and again, I think you have to be conscious to throw in some curveballs. I've never been a fan of creatives working for free, but my solution has been taking on some passion projects. Yes, unpaid work, where I can steer the project wherever I like. I've recently started working with a local business to produce a promo film, which I hope might have an environmental agenda and make people think a bit more about their waste. It's nice to be able to apply your skills in a different environment, and we are already chatting about expanding into some educational content, which I have no idea how to do. It's a freeing experience to start thinking more originally. I'm really excited to be working on these new jobs that speak into fields where I have no experience. It reminds me of that first wedding I ever filmed, which, by the way, even without filming speeches and dancing, I still had couples asking me to reproduce it for them 2 years later. Throwing yourself in the deep end is where creativity really comes alive. Thirdly, I think you need to allow time for yourself. It's probably different when your money doesn't come from your creative passion, but when it does, I think it can be dangerous. You've got to be aware that burnout is real. Finding hobbies outside of your day-to-day can help lengthen how long you feel passionately for your creative pursuit. I've personally felt like busy means successful. If you've got a lot on your plate, others will see that as successful and a good thing. But the last few weeks taught me that that's probably not true. And I've been changing up my vocabulary to support this change. No longer will I say, up to my eyeballs in work, or I don't get holidays anymore, like a lot of small businesses and creatives say, a lot of complaints I hear. But instead I've been telling myself, what can I make time for? What would be the benefit to producing something different? Growing up, I did a lot of camping, 3 or 4 times a year. My family would go on a camp, and as anyone who's camped before, a lot of camps, switching off and unwinding is a necessary process for everyone. It's nice to take a step back, a step away from our busy lives to see it more clearly. Where are we going? What are our goals? Well, for the last 12 months, I've tried to make a conscious effort to make more time for these trips. In fact, just last weekend, we bought a troopie to make these getaways even easier. I think I can leave on that note. I just wanted to look at it. That's why. On top of arranging more adventures, I've also taken up drawing again and tried to allow more time for me to switch off and unwind. And the benefits of doing something different from your normal are far-reaching, I'm sure, and I'm excited to see how it plays out in my work-life balance. Lastly, I think that when we can allow ourselves these 3 things, finding new challenges, breaking up monotony, and giving ourselves time, we go back to the original state of dreaming, thinking about the new and the next, setting goals and figuring out how to get there. I agree. This is what a creative life in my mind looks like. It's not just about being creative in your job or hobby, but thinking creatively in all aspects of your life. I've just started trying to be more aware of how I think about my work, noticing what makes me think positively and what makes me think negatively. Unfortunately, and fortunately I suppose, losing your passion is all in your head. And I'll leave you with just one last thought. What is an extension of your creative role that you don't know how to do? Thank you.